and welcome to Katie's Insight, where I give my insight on all kinds of things, including news, business, finance, politics, entertainment, current events, most importantly right now, stimulus. You guys know I've been consistently on the stimulus train, and now I'm not going to really get off anytime soon, but if you do want to see stuff that's more like pop culture and kind of things that are more current things going on in YouTube or the world, just different opinion pieces, go to my other channel. My other channel is called Joy Sparkle VS. Go subscribe and hit notifications so you can make sure you know when the videos come out. I just did one I really love. I have a rainbow shirt on. Go check it out about why, some of the hidden truths on why relationships don't work that we don't ever hear from people. As well as I had one on Britney Spears' mental breakdown. I had one recently on Princess Diana, on Olivia, Jade, her mom boy Loughlin, the college admission scandal. I do all kinds of things like that. You can see my weight loss journey. We would love to have you over there, so go check that out. But let's go ahead and talk stimulus and where we're at with stimulus. We are at the 11th hour, literally, and tomorrow is December 11th. 11th and 11th. So I'm sure in some esoteric teaching that means something with all the 111s lining up. Little do I know, that's my former New Age self. I still love when I see repeating numbers. I'm like, I wonder if that means anything. Who knows? And also, guys, if you need more one-on-one help with stimulus, here's what I want you to do. The first thing, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell, because we are helping you get stimulus in your area. And when breaking news comes for stimulus, a lot of times it's the first people that apply get that stimulus. I want you guys to be able to get that money, and you'll be able to do that if you hit subscribe and hit that notification bell, turn all those notifications on so you can make sure and get updates from all of my videos so you won't miss your chance. Also, guys, Facebook, go to our Facebook page, Katie's Insight. Like the page, join the group. The group is called Katie's Corner. It will be changed to Katie's Insight soon. Go in there, ask all the stimulus questions that you want and all the stimulus that you need in your area. We have moderators. We're trying to help everybody find stimulus in their areas and keep people more up to date than I can on this channel. So just be patient with us, because there's very few of us and we're working really hard to help you guys. I'll have more information at the end. And with that being said, let's continue with the video and see what kind of money we're getting. But here's where we're at when it comes to stimulus. We have a big deadline that's been set for December 11th. And right now, the deadline may have switched and may be December 11th. What am I talking about? I'm talking about stimulus and the continuing resolution. So as you guys know, for the last, I don't know how many months, there have been battles back and forth on stimulus. Now, the Democrats have put up this big front, Pelosi and Schumer, like they're there to negotiate. All the while, basically, Nancy Pelosi just admitted the whole time she was playing politics and was lying to everybody. She said she wouldn't do anything to piecemeal a deal. We had to either have a 3.4, but she finally came down to $2.2 trillion deal. It's all a lie, because she just jumped on to the Problem Solvers Caucus $908 billion deal. And when called out on it, said, well, now that we have Biden in office, I can change my approach. Because, she keeps saying it's all about the science, and I guess Biden is the one that controls science. By the way, that's not even a diss to Biden, it's a diss to Nancy. Like, how dumb does she think we are? It's not Biden's fault that, she's using him. But then again, they all just use each other. It's just one big pot of using each other for power, money control, purposes, and agendas that they don't really understand, that come from the top by people who aren't very nice, who don't even want to be known. So, right now, that's where the Democrats are. Where the Republicans have been saying wait and see, to the point where we're all about to leave the earth, and they just don't care. So over the last couple weeks, Steve Mnuchin, our homeboy, our boy Steve, he went to the Fed Reserve and said, I need that $450 billion back I gave you that you guys haven't been helping people with. He finally came and said, look, Congress, I have more money. Boom, go get it, stimulus. Here comes Mitch McConnell. Evil Mitch McConnell doesn't want to help anybody. He's like, I smell money. He comes running saying, I'm ready to negotiate. Hadn't done one negotiation in terms of going and doing anything with Pelosi and Schumer in private. The White House stepped up to do that. And now we have Nancy and Schumer. Now, Nancy and Schumer are backing the $908 billion deal from the Problem Solvers Caucus. Mitch McConnell, let me tell you, the Senate's a mess. As of right now, and I'm filming this video at night, so you'll see it earlier in the morning, but it is a mess. Right now, they are trying to get voted on whether or not they're going to extend the continuing resolution for 1 week, and they can't do it. On top of that, Mitch McConnell has his own $500 billion-ish deal that he's putting into the Senate for stimulus that we know, everybody knows is not going to pass, and he's saying, I don't even now know if I'm going to introduce this because I don't think I can get everybody on board. Well, you couldn't for the last 2 or 3 bills you put out. Why do you think this one is going to do anything? And do you really think that anything's going to happen when it comes to the Democrats in the Senate? And the answer is no, nothing is going to happen. And they know that. In fact, if you saw my video yesterday, please go check it out because it's so much fun. Shepard Smith was calling out one of the Problem Solvers Caucus members about this and was saying, look, here's the open secret that you and I both know about government. They love fighting. They have no intention of getting a bill done because it gives them votes and it gives them money from special interest groups. Made me so happy because he is spilling some truth. You don't always hear that from a journalist, so I was happy to hear that from somebody. You know, sometimes the establishment allows us to get little bits of truth places. So, where we're at right now in the Senate is everything's down to the Senate. If you saw my video from the other day as well, the House just passed the bill to extend the continuing resolution for 1 week. What's the continuing resolution? The continuing resolution I keep talking about is that is a stopgap funding so that the government will stay open for 1 more week. Because right now we're about to do a government shutdown because we have no bill, we have nothing in place, there's not enough money for anything because the economy is going because of this virus. I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's so much info and these people are so stupid. It just makes my head spin so much. So continuing resolution. The House went ahead and passed a 1 week extension of it. Now it's sitting in the Senate and we all thought slam dunk, easy money, get it Senate. But of course it's not. Now Mitch McConnell's saying not only do I really not want to put my bill out there because it's not going to go anywhere, it looks like we're probably going to be here well into the night and the voting will go into tomorrow. And this should be easy, guys. What we should be having right now, we should be having a situation where the House passes it like they did very quickly. Here comes the Senate, passes it a day, boom, it gets to Trump on Friday. So now if we're lucky and if Trump wants to, if they pass something by today, Friday, or if they did it late last night, Thursday, depending on where this falls, I assume nothing's going to happen by then sometime Friday night or Saturday, Trump will sign it, depending. But then there's issues with that too. Because with the continuing resolution, even though it's just a 1 week extension, there are issues about a defense bill. I'm going to get into this at some point, guys, because the defense bill, the thing that Trump doesn't like about it is basically it's giving immunity to the big social media tech companies for infringing on our free speech. But it's also giving them protections from that to an extent. But at the same time, they're also wanting to get money and government help. And Trump's like, you can't have it both ways. And considering all the big tech giants has been censoring him like crazy, on a personal level, I don't blame him. On a professional level, I think something needs to be done about the rampant censorship. Because how it's been working with these companies, why we've had so many censorship issues. And I know we hear fake news. And you know what? That's most of the news you hear. There's going to be inaccuracies places. And there are going to be some people who are full of crap. Here's the problem. The problem is with free speech. What they're doing goes against free speech, but they're saying, well, it's our platform because we're a privately owned entity, a business. We can do whatever we want. But then they want immunities and they want special privileges and money from the government. Trump is saying you can't have it both ways. And being somebody who's on YouTube, you guys know how stupid it is, how many roundabout words and things I have to say. You guys don't know that there are days I don't upload because every video doesn't get monetized by YouTube and I have to wait a day or two. Luckily, I have a wonderful group of people I work with. I have a wonderful network and they can typically get things pushed through YouTube fairly quickly. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful. Thank you, YouTube, for all the help. But it is getting ridiculous. So I understand where he's coming from. But we have more bills that are being introduced right now. And there's one that you probably haven't heard much about that I wanted to go over because I thought this one was very, very interesting, even just on a social level. I wanted to get your guys' opinions on this. So this is from Yahoo Life. It says, should moms get paid for being moms? And it's a good question. It says, some think so. And there's a new plan to provide a $2,400 monthly stipend. Okay, let's look. What if moms were given $2,400 monthly stipend for their often invisible labor? That's the plan proposed by Girls Who Code founder Reshma Saujani in a new op-ed for The Hill. Saujani is calling on President-elect Joe Biden to create a task force dedicated to implementing a Marshall Plan for moms during his first 100 days. It says, for a history refresher, the original Marshall Plan, also known as the Economic Cooperation Act, passed in 1948 and provided funding which totaled more than $12 billion to help Western Europe rebuild after the war. Okay, very interesting. Saujani's proposing a means-tested $2,400 monthly payment to the women who are the bedrock of our economy and our society. I can see a lot of issues with this. I like the concept. I very much like the concept. I just hate to say, I can just see so many issues coming up with this. I'll get into in a minute. Along with the stipend, Saujani wrote that the plan should include long overdue parental leave, affordable childcare, and pay equity. She added that it should be implemented by a task force led by a designated caregiving czar, which Melinda Gates suggested recently in a Washington Post op-ed. I'm sorry, if there's anything that comes anywhere from Gates, I'm not going to trust it. I don't trust those people at all. It says how the pandemic has impacted women. In the op-ed, Gates wrote that the virus has laid bare what was painfully clear to many families. The caregiver system in the United States is broken, and it is women who are paying the price, she continued. Even before the pandemic began, childcare and long-term care solutions were often unaffordable and inaccessible, and women were filling the gaps at tremendous cost to their own economic potential. Sajani agrees, writing that since March, which is when stay-at-home orders and distance learning started in several states, mothers have been working simultaneously as teachers and counselors and cleaners and nurses and nannies and chefs and tech support, and the list goes on and on. Countless millions of women have been forced to cut their working hours, scale back on their careers, or leave the workforce entirely in order to be full-time caregivers. It's true that not all caregivers are women, but the vast majority are. I think there's a lot of truth to that, guys. Jackie Hunt, the European Eurasia Director of Equality Now, calls it a very good proposal. Hunt tells Yahoo Life, mothers often provide the majority of care for children and older dependents, many while holding down another job or 2 or 3. The pandemic has only exacerbated the disproportionate burden of reproductive care that women shoulder, with many absorbing additional care responsibilities that leave many women so exhausted that they have to give up their paid labor in order just to cope. The toll of invisible labor. This is very interesting, guys. Research shows that invisible labor of moms in general takes a toll on their mental health. Well, of course, when you're constantly overworked, understressed, have no support, and have no money, how are you going to be mentally healthy? I just think it's always funny that they're like, we have rampant mental illness in the country. I'm like, no, we have poverty. We have poverty, which a lot of that's creating people to be crazy. And then on top of that, when you're constantly running around just trying to fight for your survival, how can you focus on being mentally well? That's not going to make you mentally well. It'll make you anxious. It'll make you depressed. Not to mention, most of us are sick from the food and the water having crap in it everywhere. Like, of course, I love it that they say these things like they're trying to be groundbreaking statements that, well, I guess when you're overworked, overstressed, you have no help and you can't do anything for yourself, you can't do the things you like, and you're unhealthy, maybe that could have negative impacts on your mental health. Like, really, do we need to fund studies? Do we need to fund that info? Or maybe they could just listen to women and take us seriously. Oh, but we're third-class citizens. Can't do that. Same with minorities. So it says the toll of invisible labor. Research shows that the invisible labor of moms in general takes a toll on their mental health. A 2019 study published in the journal Sex Roles found that 90% of married or partnered moms feel solely responsible for their children and household, and 8 out of 10 moms reportedly said that they were the ones responsible for dealing with their children's, teachers, and school. Shouldering all the responsibilities was associated with strains on mothers, personal well-being, as well as lower satisfaction with the relationship, according to the study. The moms also reported feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. While Sajani acknowledges that the proposal won't solve all the problems, she wrote in an op-ed that it would at least begin to abate the gross disregard for the value of mothers' unpaid, unseen, unappreciated labor. Sajani tells Yahoo Life that if you look at the legislators and leaders making policy decisions, it's still largely men. And judging from a total lack of government support provided to women and moms during the virus crisis, it's pretty clear that valuing mothers as labor isn't a priority for them. It's never been a priority. We're expected to do it. Shut up and do it. It's pretty clear. It says, more broadly, there's a strong cultural norm. Here we go. The caregiving and household work is women's work, and we don't have a great track record in this country valuing work done by women. Yes, it's just assumed we're supposed to do this and not be able to take care of ourselves, because who do we think we are? We're just pawns to be used. We're just pawns to be used by men when they've got issues that they're frustrated by. I really wish I could just speak freely, and I can't. She adds that the monthly stipend could be transformational if it's done partly in a Marshall Plan for moms that includes parental leave, affordable childcare, and pay equity. It will help us get back the economic growth and out of this recession. Sajani notes, we have never finished the project of fully integrating and supporting women in the labor force. Supporting moms will be good for all of us. And then it says it's about economic growth. Although some might argue that motherhood is a choice and therefore should not be compensated, well, unless men force you into it, please infer. Because, when that happens, there's very little laws or very little help for women in that situation to get justice. Typically, it's, well, what were you wearing? We get shamed. Because, how dare we have bodies? How dare we have bodies that could be tempting to somebody's instincts? They don't have to have self-control over their instincts. We just need to cover ourselves with a blanket every day because they are first. Their wants, their little whims, and having no control of themselves comes first. We're evil by nature. I feel like this ends up being, and they don't realize it, that's what the argument ends up boiling down to. So that says, although some might argue that motherhood is a choice and therefore should not be compensated, Shajani tells Yahoo Life that that is not about choosing to have children. It's about economic growth. You can't have economic growth in this country unless you bring women fully into the labor force. And you can't do that without ensuring that moms have childcare, that they're paid fairly, that they're compensated for their invisible labor. Hunt says that motherhood and unpaid women's labor benefits all of society and provides members of the workforce, including healthcare, frontline, and public service personnel, the ability to engage in employment outside of the home, Hunt adds. During the pandemic, this contribution has been equally vital and should be remunerated accordingly. Sajani said that, if implemented, the plan would also send a signal to our girls that our society values the contributions of women and their careers, dreams, and lives and not be taken for granted, which they don't. I have several thoughts on this. The fact that they're even looking at this to become stimulus, I think it's interesting. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. We do not value women in this society. The simple fact that the mortality rate for expecting mothers giving birth and afterbirth is way on the rise in a first world country, and we're supposed to have all this state-of-the-art tech, I think goes to show you how much we value women. The majority of women that I know all have a horror story about birth, and it's not just, oh, it was painful, uncomfortable. It was something medical that the doctors didn't see, didn't fix, or induced in the wrong way because they don't know what they're doing and then didn't care to fix it. I'm telling you, this country is a nightmare for health issues, and it's a nightmare for women. It really is. And you know, it's sad. I'm 36, and it took me quite a while to see all these things. But then again, gaslighting in this country is strong, isn't it? Especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a minority. We get gaslit all of the time in our different social areas. You know, I was gaslit for a long time by men to believe everything was my fault. Everything's my fault. Everything's my fault. And granted, there were some things I had to learn. There were some mistakes I was doing, right? But as I got older, there were things that I learned. So for instance, okay, here's one. I once got fired from a job because a guy, it's a long story, but so there was a situation where I was working in a restaurant, and this restaurant they kind of had a partnership with some companies that would frequent the establishment. So long story short, I was bartending in there. Listen to this, I got fired because one of the men in there, he got really mad and said I was rude, I was this and that, and he's gonna get me fired. And I was 25 and terrified. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I was a kid, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, was there anything I can do to fix it? And he goes, you wouldn't do what I want to fix it. I've been waiting for you all week to fix it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you can go back to my room and help me fix it. So basically he was telling me, if you don't do what I want in a hotel room, if you don't go do that with me privately, I'm gonna get you fired. And I was so young and scared of everything, I didn't know what to do. And guess what? Ended up getting fired. He ended up complaining and he won. And I look back later and I'm so sad and I'm so upset at my younger self. And not in the sense of like, you should have stood up for yourself, you dummy. It was more like, you poor thing, you had no guidance, you had no help. I had no adult help with the situation. And women, and even if I did, so much of society has consistently, in every area, put us down. I remember in school, I have so many stories I could talk about. And by the way, none of what I'm saying is like, this isn't groundbreaking. Every woman I know has a story about being scared by men. Most men aren't having scary stories about women coming and trying to, remove them off the planet or do horrible things to them. It doesn't really happen. They don't understand. And it's not all men. Hashtag not all men. It's enough. It is absolutely enough that as women, it is not real safe to be a woman in our society. Now, I do want to say, we are so much better than other societies, right? So I can hear people say, oh, why don't you go to the Middle East then? Well, I agree with you. It's horrible there, and I'm so grateful to be in this country. It doesn't mean that this one doesn't need work and we don't need to fix things. We can be grateful for where we're at and still understand and acknowledge there are issues to fix. My point is to say, as women, we've been getting the shaft for a very long time. But let's play devil's advocate. I do agree with some points of this. I think to some extent, I think people in general, men and women, should be more responsible when it comes to birth control. But then let's look at that as well. Birth control is poisonous for many of us women and hurts us, hurts our bodies in ways we're not even aware of. Did you gain 50 pounds in the last few years and you really can't figure out why? could be your birth control. And you're not going to know because society's going to brainwash you. Well, you just need to eat less and exercise more because that typically is how men lose weight per their hormones and their systems. Even weight loss is all tailored to men. It's not tailored to women's health. Now, of course, one of the cornerstones to losing weight is lessening food intake if you're overeating and eating healthier and movement. Unless you have other physical health issues, underlying conditions, you have issues with your thyroid, inflammation, hormones, birth control. So for women, there's a whole myriad of things that you have to, hoops to jump through to even figure out what your health is, and most doctors aren't going to do it. They're going to look at you and say you're anxious. Well, no crap, Sherlock. When I'm sick all the time and nobody's listening to me, nobody gives me the time of day, we throw everything on women. They have to be perfect while men can run around and do whatever they want and irresponsibly create life as they need to with very, very little responsibility, except maybe if you can go through the system child support. Yeah, you're not going to be in the healthiest mental state, being overwhelmed, overworked, and having to keep everybody alive. Well, the men don't have to help you. Hashtag not all men. So here's another thing to this. What about the men who are single fathers? I know some wonderful men who are single fathers and they are picking up the slack. And thank God for them, right? Let's give some love and support to those men. I think even those men can agree, though, unfortunately, it's few and far between. So I would call this, instead of women, I would say caretaker. But I also think this should be very noted. Another thing, guys, I've lived in other countries where they have systems set up to help families and to help women. So for instance, I've lived in France. Do you know you can get, I believe it's up, or it was when I, at the time, it was around 2 years of paid leave when you first have a child. You can get from the government, they will end up sending you tax credits, or you can end up getting nannies to help you. Au pairs. You hear about this. If you ever heard the term au pair, many Americans will go over to France and they'll be studying in school and they'll do like 10 hours a week of au pair work, and that's how they get to stay there. There are a lot more things we could do to be helping women, and the fact that we've had women choose between their careers, which at this point, how many of us even really have careers with the job market tanking, right? It's not like we have some career at a firm that we're building. Most of us don't have that luxury anymore. For some reason, there's still this fairy tale in the government that so many people are at that place. So I like it. It's like, well, women have to choose between their careers and home. No, at this point, they have to choose survival or survival. And their careers are even about survival. It's not necessarily about a career. Even those that are college educated, in fact, some of those people have it the worst. I can't tell you how many people I went to school, especially women who got degrees, and they were like, well, my parents said just get a degree in anything. It makes you look good. I'll go ahead and get a degree in teaching. Can't get jobs, and if they do, they're making 20 grand a year. So they're bartending on the side. They're working during their summers off. Like, it's unreal. So I know there's a lot of sidetracking here, but I was very passionate about this video and very passionate about this subject. I like the concept. However, if we do something like this, now if it's a stimulus, it's one thing, but if this were something we put in together as a society, I feel like it would be ripe for people taking advantage of it. Because let's be honest, there are going to be people and women in society who will just take advantage of something like this. Hashtag, not all women. Hashtag, not the majority. But there's enough. And then that could end up trapping more men. And you know what? At the end of the day, you know what the solution to all this is? There's one solution to this. Better healthcare. Better healthcare. Better birth controls that don't poison us. Better healthcare in terms of reproduction and birth control and women's healthcare. And helping to have the man take some responsibility for the birth control. And here's the thing. If we could come up technologically with ways to make sure we don't have children until we're in the right place, that negates all of this. Oh, but the government doesn't keep us in suffering. Therefore, they can't keep us in a mindset of desperation to manipulate us, have us continue to make choices just for the next moment of survival, and then we have to do things and have to give our power to them. I believe these technologies and these medicines exist. We just don't get access to them. This is one big reason that I don't want to have children, because I don't trust the system that we're in. Also, my health issues kind of preclude me from that. I mean, it's not that I couldn't, but it would be very dangerous. And I worked really hard to get this far in this meat sack that doesn't work. I would rather not jinx it anymore. But I want to end this because I want to hear in this woman's own words exactly what she has to say. So I have, it's not long, but I do have the op-ed directly from her. And again, I would like to hear what it says. And this is from thehill.com. It says, each day, about 45 million women in this country show up to a job where they regularly work overtime, are paid nothing, and get no time off. Their job title is mother. It's time to compensate them for their... In January, President-elect Biden will announce his priorities for his first 100 days. Among those priorities should be the creation of a task force dedicated to implementing a Marshall Plan for moms, one that includes a monthly, means-tested $2,400 monthly payment to the women who are the bedrock of our economy and our society. Again, I think that should be changed in some way, shape, fashion, or form to caregiver, because that should include the fathers who are stepping up too. The task force should be led by, as my friend Melinda Gates suggested last week, a caregiving czar. And alongside that $2,400 check should be all the policies, parental leave, affordable childcare, pay equity that we know are long overdue. Amen. I like that. Women's labor, specifically the labor of our mothers, has always been undervalued in most of the United States. But in the last year, we've confirmed that in the eyes of the policymakers, their labor has no economic value whatsoever, that its worth is exactly $0. Since March, our mothers have been working simultaneously as teachers and counselors and cleaners and nurses and nannies and chefs and tech support, and the list goes on and on and on. Countless millions of women have been forced to cut their working hours, scale back their careers if they were able to get one at all because of the economy, or leave the workforce entirely in order to be full-time caretakers. It's true that not all caregivers are women, but the vast majority are. I've experienced this firsthand as I work to ensure the young women in our coding programs at the Girls Who Code don't slip through the cracks during the pandemic. A crisis has been playing out in my own living room. Every morning, I log my son onto Zoom School and see other women helping their own toddlers find the mute button. Every day, I log on to video calls and see the exhausted moms with infants in their laps. Or I get a call from the panicked mom, for instance, in recent weeks, about how to care for her daughter after local schools gave parents only a few hours' notice of another maddening and confusing closure. Every woman in America is familiar with these scenes, but where are our leaders? Oh, they don't care about us. They don't care about anybody but themselves. And our legislators, maybe they're familiar, but they are really paying attention. More to the point, do they even care? Judging from the near total lack of government support provided to women and moms during the virus crisis, the answer seems to be a resounding no. Well, no, it is no. There's no seems to. When policymakers budget for schools to reopen, they factor in HVAC systems and masks and sanitizers and extra nurses and all the things we rightfully need to keep our kids and our teachers and our staff safe. When they budget for schools to close, however, there is no accounting for the impact on moms. The family wages lost, the months of career advancements forgone, the barriers to re-entering the workforce after moms have been forced to leave it. To be clear, a Marshall Plan for moms will not solve the deeply rooted norms that make women our default caretakers in the first place. The battle against those norms, against our hugely damaging structural inequities, doesn't end with a monthly stipend from the federal government. What might end, or at least begin to abate, is the gross disregard for the value of mothers' unpaid, unseen, unappreciated labor. A Marshall Plan for moms will stimulate the economy. It will give women the support they need so they can, eventually, get back to work. And it will send a hugely important signal to little girls and young women across the country that our society values their contributions of women. Their careers, their dreams, their lives will not be taken for granted. So I think that's a nice way to put it. I think that was a very poetic way. And, for the most part, I like the idea. I doubt this will get anywhere because I feel like to be able to put women first and help women and help families more, we would also have to put their health care first. And Lord knows we're still a country that thinks if you aren't constantly working hard to the bone and almost hurting yourself or leaving the planet to do it, then screw you, you're lazy. That is a big thought we have. We're in this weird competition with who can, like this weird life competition with one another. It's kind of like who can race off the planet first. Forgive me, I have to be very careful how I say things. I have a very roundabout way of having to say this stuff because, again, like I just talked about earlier, YouTube is YouTube. God love YouTube. I love this platform. I am grateful for this platform, but I am tired. I think everybody's tired of their silly censorships. But I wanted to go over this because, again, I think that these issues are very important to bring up. Women's issues are very, very important because women are the backbone, and a lot of times they're the breadwinners or the only breadwinner of the family. And I feel like there should be more support for them. Instead, we just pile more on them and then go, women are crazy. Again, how could we be sane in situations where you're constantly overworked, your health is awful, and that's taken for granted, and you're gaslit and told nothing's wrong with you, you're just anxious. And then to get help for your anxiety, instead of lessening the pressures that society puts on you and way too many responsibilities that many times as women we're completely alone in, instead of doing that, they say, here, take this experimental drug. May or may not have lasting side effects, may or may not do crazy things to you or mess up your health. Further, we're constantly just pumped full of drugs, told to shut up, that everything is your fault, you just have anxiety, learn to deal with your life. All the while, we let men roam around and create children with very little recourse or repercussion aside from maybe child support, which I know men get very mad at this, but please understand, a woman doesn't give child support, not only because the children live with her, but because the woman gives everything to her children. Y'all give 25%, a woman gives everything. So I think to make this a fair system, focus on healthcare, better birth control for everybody across the board. Have a society that teaches how and when to make sustainable families. And I feel like through that, we can do things. We have classes on how to learn to deal with your emotions, emotional control, procreation, education, not just here's how it happens, not just, wear this thing on your thing. I hate YouTube. I wish I could just say what I need to say. We actually really taught people about the dynamics of how to be in society, how to be productive people, how to be decent people, respectful people, kind people, how to do your taxes. I feel like these things would help. So, is this going to pass? I doubt it, but I do think it's a step in the right direction because the more women that raise our voices to express these concerns and show society what is going on, I feel like we are a step closer to building the society that we want and creating something that we want. And I just want to help raise my voice to share that and see what happens. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm off base here? Do you think that women should get more help and support? Do you see any truth in what I'm saying? Do you think I'm off base? Sound off in the comments. I'm a little scared of these comments because most of you guys, even if you disagree with me, are super, super sweet. And I love you guys so much. You're the best, honestly. I have the best audience to deal with. But, I also understand these are very sensitive topics. So to the men, this was not trying to put you down. If you are a great man who doesn't exemplify the things I've brought up, I am happy and love to you. We need more of you. So please don't feel like this is an attack. Just as there are, horrible men and great men, there's horrible women and great women, right? So understand this isn't necessarily aimed at you, but I think if we are trying to be decent people, we can recognize the ones that aren't trying at all. In fact, sometimes they do the opposite. They put the opposite intention out. So let me know in the comments what you think. And guys, if you like this video, please help me and support my channel and give me a big thumbs up. Like this video, subscribe, hit notifications so you can be notified what's coming in the pipeline in your area for stimulus. Remember, like I told you guys before, hitting the notification button on my channel is very important because I give you up-to-date information on stimulus that sometimes you have to apply for quickly or it's gone. So I want you guys to have all of the information as early as possible to help you get money across the country as our government is failing us. Again, leave me as many comments as you can telling me how you feel. And guys, please share this content with as many people as you know that are struggling right now or people you think would resonate with this. People who are on unemployment, waiting for unemployment, stimulus checks, SB lender issues, bill issues, or mothers, overworked, overtired mothers. Send this to your mom friends and the moms that you know and see what they think about this. I would love to hear their opinions and perspectives. I'm not a mom. I've been a mother to Shih Tzu puppies. My Shih Tzu babies, which I love to death, but I only know my experience as a chronically ill woman in society. I can't imagine what it's like to be a mother, and my heart goes out to all the women who put up with this, and hopefully we can make some good changes. So please share this with your mom friends. They would love to see what they think as well. Also, guys, if you need more one-on-one help with stimulus in your area, make sure and go to my Facebook page, Katie's Insight. Like the page, then join the group, Katie's Corner. Will be changed to Katie's Insight soon. Go in there, you can ask all the stimulus questions you want, and we're trying to help people on a one-on-one basis in their areas where stimulus is and giving you updates. We have Ramel Graves, who is our new moderator and wonderful, and we have the HBIC, the most wonderful, cuz we have British Gray. Send them some love. They're trying to help and keep the groups wonderful, consistent, open, positive, and give good information. All that we ask with all of this, all we ask you guys to do is just, just be nice, be respectful. That's it. No fighting about politics. It's hard because stimulus has so much a political, tone in it. So it's like, it's hard. I don't quite want to censor that, but if I don't, Facebook ends up censoring us anyway. It's so stupid. You guys don't even know. In the Facebook group, I remember I started getting some when people were talking about politics, even though we have rules about fighting about politics and being rude, because of the election, I kind of let that rule slide a little bit. And I started getting notifications from Facebook, and Facebook was like, so we have fact checkers that have said that people are sharing information in your group that's incorrect. Don't get me started on the fact checkers. And as a result, we're going to penalize you if you don't fix it. They're going to penalize me and the group as a whole. So we were just like, all right, no politics. And people were fighting too much about it. Isn't it very strange? It feels like everybody lives in their own reality, and the realities are splitting further and further between Democrats and Republicans. I find it very interesting. And by interesting, I mean sad, frustrating, and depressing. But it is strange. It is kind of odd to watch. There is something that is interesting about watching it, I guess. I don't know. Also, guys, make sure and go to my other channel, Joy Sparkle VS. Go subscribe there and hit notifications there, and you can see stuff that's pop culture videos and all different types of videos that won't be about stimulus or politics, just stuff I want to talk about that you guys might enjoy. You might enjoy my perspective on. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and take off and get more stimulus videos ready for y'all, but stay tuned because we have a lot of info dropping this weekend. I want to continue to help show you guys where to get stimulus money, so stay tuned. I have a lot of good info. Okay, guys, take care. Lots of love, lots of blessings, and until the next video, hugs, mwah, and kisses to everybody. Bye, guys.